I woke up one day and found I had transmigrated as the villainess in a book. To save my own life, I had to pretend to be a patient who gasped every 3 steps and swayed every 5 steps. Unexpectedly, someone still proposed to me at the spring banquet. For a moment, I was so terrified I forgot to act frail. With a voice full of vigor, I shouted that my health was failing and that I would never marry or have children. That young master laughed and said it was no matter, I should still marry him. Even if I were sickly, he'd make sure my funeral was a grand affair. When I first realized I had transmigrated into a sweet romance novel, I jumped for joy. After all, in the real world, I was already a wandering soul. This transmigration was basically a new lease on life for me. But then I found out the system hadn't chosen a good character for me. Instead, I was the villainess who wouldn't survive past chapter 3. I wasn't going to stand for that. So, after analyzing the love and hate between the protagonists, I decided to solve the problem at its source. Yes, I was the female lead's best friend, but I was also in love with the male lead. In the end, unrequited love drove me to become the villain. So when the female lead sent me another invitation to go to a gathering with him, I simply faked an illness and refused. We should both just mind our own business. You go flirt with your male lead, and I'll stay home and enjoy being served by beautiful maids. On my first day here, I replaced all the maids around me. Now, the beauty level of the maids in my courtyard probably crushes the rest of the manor. Because of this, my second brother even complained to father, only to be scolded by father for being idle, and was eventually kicked out. I was lying on a chaise longue with a pretty girl fanning me, carrying the fragrance from her body, along with the breeze. There was even someone feeding me fruit nearby. This is absolute imperial luxury. I really don't understand why the original host would do such wicked things for a man. In these peaceful times, I almost forgot I was supposed to be pretending to be sick. My face even looked a bit rounder than before, until I received another invitation from the female lead saying she was coming to visit me while I was ill. Looking in the mirror at my healthy complexion, though a bit rounder, it had more of a young girl's charm. I vowed to lose weight before the female lead arrived. From today on, I'll eat nothing but greens for several days. I've never been this desperate to lose weight before, but luckily, after a few days, my face had turned sallow. It wasn't because of the vegetables, though. It was because I was too hungry to sleep at night. All the staying up late makes me just want to finish seeing the female lead, and then have the kitchen prepare a full banquet for me. Jinghua, look at your face. How did you get so haggard? With tears in my eyes, I lowered my head and used my handkerchief to dab my eyes, feigning tears that weren't there. I don't know what illness I've caught. The doctor has visited, and I've taken the medicine, but I haven't seen any improvement lately. Upon hearing this, the female lead felt very sorry, and had her maid present the tonics she brought for me. Looking at the pile of tonics before me, I thought the female lead was actually quite nice. At least she was sincere towards me. Before falling out over a man, since we were both only daughters, they truly were like sisters. I accepted the tonics without hesitation. With the way my face looks these days, I definitely need some nourishment. The female lead dismissed all the maids. Then she leaned close to my ear and whispered that her heart was racing. I think I've fallen for someone. Those words exploded in my ear. Is the main plot about to begin? Following her lead, I whispered back, who? Su Qingchen, the official from the Court of Judicial Review. If there were a mirror in front of me now, I'd probably see my eyes bulging like copper bells. Clearly, in the original book, the one the female lead fell for should have been the valiant young General Gu Yen. How did it become this court official? Then the female lead started telling me about how she met the Su Qingchen, and how they fell in love, though I didn't know exactly what went wrong. The female lead actually loved someone else before meeting the male lead. Listening to her story, I felt like I was reading a sweet novel. As expected, romance is only sweet when you're watching others do it. I listened intently. If I didn't have to maintain my sick persona, I'd really want a maid to bring in a plate of melon seeds, so I could snack while I listened. By the time she finished, her face was completely flushed. I gave my advice. He seems like a good man. Well educated, too. He looks like a decent gentleman. Actually, I thought there was no hope for them at all. After all, the female lead belongs to the male lead in the end. But seeing her looking so love-struck, I couldn't bring myself to dampen her spirits. Fortunately, after she finished listening, she seemed very satisfied with my advice. She stood up happily, saying she was going back to embroider a pouch, and promised to take me to see him once I got better. I thought, since it wasn't the male lead, it probably didn't matter. I readily agreed. Only then did she leave with her maids. When the maid who saw her out returned, and reported that she had left the manor, I acted like I was possessed by a hungry ghost, urging the maids, hurry, hurry, go to the kitchen and bring me all the best food. Not until only leftovers remained on the table did I rub my bulging belly with satisfaction. All those greens these past few days, I felt like I was turning into a vegetable myself. Oh, little sister, how are you hiding in your room sneaking food at midday? A voice with a bit of a drawl drifted in. I didn't even have to look to know it was my profligate second brother. I see this second brother often, because I had transferred all the pretty maids from his courtyard. He often came to my courtyard to look at the beauties. He liked to tease the pretty girls, until their faces turned red and they ran away. But luckily, he was still something of a gentleman, and wouldn't do anything out of line. Second brother, you're here so early today. Usually, he only came after dinner. Coming at this hour was a first. Father sent me to tell you that there's a spring banquet in a few days. You should dress up well and see if there's a young man you fancy as the villainous. I was harshly humiliated by the male lead at that spring banquet, becoming the laughingstock of all the capital. If I can't afford to offend him, I can at least hide. I shook my head rapidly. I'm still sick. I'm not going. Second brother looked at me, my round, bulging belly that my clothes couldn't hide, his eyes full of amusement. It's the first time I've seen anyone with such a good appetite while sick. My head slumped. Seeing I couldn't escape it, I could only agree. Seeing his errand was done, and seeing the maids in my courtyard, all hiding behind the corridors, looking at him with blushing faces, he finally shook his fan with satisfaction, and swaggered out of the courtyard. I rested my chin on my hand and looked at the sky, trying to recall carefully. At the spring banquet, how exactly did I, the villainess, provoke the male lead? Fortunately, I haven't met the male lead yet. As long as I try my best to minimize my presence, and be a complete nobody, the male lead wouldn't come looking for trouble with no reason, right? On the day of the spring banquet, I applied makeup for a cold and frail beauty look, and then put on a veil, paired with my gasp every 3 steps and sway every 5 steps routine. I looked like a total invalid. Luckily, back when I was hungry a few days ago, I became very familiar with this image. Putting on the act now was second nature. Looking like this, people would probably be afraid I'd collapse on them if they came near. They surely wouldn't make things difficult for me, just as I expected. The female guests I met along the way mostly spoke in soft whispers, fearing a loud noise might startle me. No one spoke to me after I took my seat. I was happy for the peace and quiet. I looked at the table full of fruits and snacks I couldn't eat. After all, I'm supposed to have no appetite right now. I secretly peeked at the people around me, wondering which one was the male lead. I must stay far away from him. Jinghua, why are you sitting here alone? Hearing that voice, I knew the female lead had arrived. I looked up and sure enough, I saw her walking toward me with a young gentleman. I guessed, this must be the court official she likes. I stood up from my seat like a willow swaying in the wind. The female lead quickly came over to support me. Jinghua, how are you still so weak? Have you not been taking your medicine properly lately? I feigned a few dry coughs while covering my mouth before shaking my head. It's nothing, I'll be fine in a few days. Only after speaking to me did she realize there was someone else there. She hurriedly introduced Su Qingchen to me. Jinghua, this is Lord Su I told you about. I curtsied to Su Qingchen, and noticed a sachet hanging from his waist. That sachet was honestly quite hideous. It was just as the book described. The female lead's embroidery made even dogs shake their heads. Yet the male lead would treat the sachet she made as a treasure and carry it everywhere. Maybe because my gaze lingered on the sachet for too long. Su Qingchen touched his sachet and spoke. You also think this sachet looks good, don't you? Yao made it for me. I was silent for a moment, only able to go along and praise it. It is indeed beautiful. Yao's embroidery has improved again. Sometimes I have to say, the female lead is truly the female lead. Her luck is unrivaled. Whether it's the male lead, or this ex-lover who appeared out of nowhere, they are all hopeless romantics. How can a relationship like this not be sweet? Soon, someone whispered that Princess Changming had arrived. This spring banquet was organized by Princess Changming. Word was it was to find a suitable lady from an official family for her nephew. As for today's gathering, the ones everyone was most focused on were definitely Gu Yan and Su Qingchen next to the female lead. Though I knew she'd end up with the male lead, I couldn't help but look forward to the drama. Princess Changming gestured to a plump young lord to sit down. Sure enough, as soon as he sat, his eyes began wandering. He held a folding fan in his hand, trying to act like a dashing nobleman, but he couldn't pull it off at all. I turned my head to make sure. My veil was covering my face. But as luck would have it, after looking around, the fat lord locked his gaze on me. Why are you still wearing a veil? This humble girl has been bedridden for a long time. My appearance is haggard. I fear I might startle everyone. I'd like to see what kind of face could possibly startle me. I didn't expect this man to be so relentless. But luckily, Princess Changming spoke up. Ninger, this lady is ill and not suitable for you. Look at someone else instead. I let out a long sigh of relief. Things calmed down after that. The female lead and Su Qingchen were nowhere to be found. Seeing that no one was paying attention, I found a gap and snuck out through the side door. The peonies in the garden chosen by the princess were in full bloom. Yet they hadn't come out to look. I ripped off my veil, and held it in my hand to fan myself. I'm suffocating. This veil looked thin, but it was surprisingly uncomfortable to wear. Wait, is someone there? I immediately went on high alert. Who? I saw someone step out from behind a rockery to my right. His skin wasn't as pale as those young lords at the banquet, and his hairline was a bit messy, but his face was exceptionally handsome. Whose servant are you? How dare you mock me just now? The man was stunned for a moment when he saw my face, then gave me a peculiar look. I am an attendant of the young General Gu. I did not mean to offend the lady just now. I heard that and thought, isn't he the male lead's attendant? What bad luck. I turned around and waved my hand at him. Go on, leave quickly. I won't tell anyone you were slacking off here. The attendant let out a chuckle. Behind me, the sound of footsteps gradually drifted away. The footsteps vanished. I assumed the attendant had left, so I continued lying on the stone bench to enjoy the peace. The breeze and the floral scent made me a bit drowsy, until a cry of alarm from the female lead woke me up. Jinghua, what happened to your face? I reflexively reached up to touch my face. There was nothing there. Then I remembered that before leaving, just to be safe, I had painted many small red dots on my face. Looking at my face in the mirror at the time, even I couldn't help but frown. a sickly body, and an ugly appearance. Even if some young master were blind enough to fancy me, his parents would surely put a stop to it. In the modern world, I was forced into blind dates. In ancient times, I'm still being forced into them, but I'm an expert at this. Jinghua, you had such a beautiful face. How did it become like this? She hugged me tightly, as if she were the one who had been disfigured. It's probably just an allergy. It'll be fine in a few days. The female lead still wasn't reassured, insisting that if I wasn't better in a few days, she'd take me to the Imperial Medical Academy. Supposedly, a miracle doctor had just arrived there who could make a woman's complexion even more radiant. I had no choice but to agree. I put my veil back on and we returned to the front together. On the way, I found out that the female lead had noticed my absence, and specifically came out to find me. I had left silently, but I returned to the center of attention. Everyone in the hall was looking our way. We were just talking about Minister Lee's daughter, and here she is. I let out a breath of relief. So everyone was looking at the female lead next to me. Just now, Lord Su said it was love at first sight with Miss Lee. I'd like to grant you a good marriage. What do you think, Miss Lee? An imperial marriage? I was so shocked that I stepped on my own skirt and took a tumble. Jinghua, are you hurt? I shook my head and used the female lead's hand to pull myself up. Princess Changming sent a maid to help me back to my seat. As soon as I got back, I saw the female lead glance towards Su Qingchen, and then nod shyly. This humble girl also favors Lord Su. I beg the princess to fulfill our wish. I will ask the emperor to grant your marriage when I return. Where's the male lead? Where is he? If you don't show up, your wife will be gone. Wait, princess. I also have a request. I looked toward the voice. It was actually the male lead's attendant. My heart finally settled. He's coming to steal the female lead. Well done, as expected of the male lead. Fight. Let's see them fight. But he just referred to himself as this official. He wasn't an attendant, but the male lead himself. Has the young General Gu also taken a fancy to some lady? I have. I looked at Su Qingchen with some pity. Trying to steal a woman from the male lead? You're still a bit too green. I fancy the daughter of the Su family. Su, isn't that my family? Those words scared me so much I forgot to act frail. I stood up. My health is failing. I can't marry or have children. Gu Yan was slightly stunned. Then he actually chuckled. It's no matter. If you marry me and your illness turns critical, I'll still make sure your funeral is a grand affair. Pa, isn't he just cursing me? I gave Gu Yan a fierce glare. I didn't expect the male lead to have a fetish for ugliness. He clearly saw the red dots all over my face just now. Princess Changming was also amused by Gu Yan's answer. Miss Su is truly fortunate. Young General Gu is quite beloved by many ladies. What kind of fortune is this? This is clearly a disaster. The plot dictates the male lead must end up with the female lead. Does it have to make me the villainess who steals her man? Princess, I know my body is weak and my appearance is beyond words. If I should pass away early one day, wouldn't I leave the young General Gu a widower in his prime? It's just that I don't have this fortune. I used my handkerchief to wipe the corners of my eyes, brushing away tears that didn't exist. Princess Changming hesitated, but Gu Yan spoke up again about this matter. Princess, the person I've set my heart on. Before Gu Yan could finish, I began to cry louder and louder, until I directly cried myself into a faint. The scene immediately fell into chaos. Jinghua, the female lead cried my name mournfully. Anyone who didn't know would think I was already dead. The daughter of a medical family kindly helped me check my pulse. It's nothing. She just fainted from excessive grief. Princess Changming quickly sent people to take me home. Once the princess's people had left, I sat up in bed with a sudden bolt. I had a maid bring a basin of water. Looking at this hideous face in the water, I once again confirmed that Gu Yan must have a fetish for ugliness. But the female lead isn't ugly. Has his taste changed? I quickly washed my face clean. Early the next morning, my second brother came to my courtyard. By the time I went out, he had already finished a cup of tea. Sister, you've really outdone yourself. The whole city is saying the young General Gu is madly in love with you. He doesn't mind your frail health. Yet you refused him because you feared leaving him a widower. Now you're a pair of star-crossed lovers. Hurry, tell me, when did you and the young general meet and fall in love? What meeting? What falling in love? We only met for the first time yesterday, and I even mistook him for someone else. After that, I begged my brother to take me to the tea house for a walk. He agreed immediately, looking even more excited than I was. To make going out easier, I got all dressed up and changed into men's clothing. Let's go, brother. Second brother threw an arm around me and we headed out. When we reached the tea house, we chose a seat right in the middle. With a grand wave of his hand, he ordered the best tea and a table full of pastries. I have to say, it's great to go out with a brother. Someone else pays for everything. The storyteller hadn't started on my gossip yet. By the time I finished eating, it was exactly time for my story. My brother and I both sat up straight and listened intently. They say Miss Su and young General Gu fell for each other at first sight. They had already secretly pledged their hearts. But Miss Su was noble-minded, not wanting General Gu to lose his wife in his youth. She painfully rejected him. Her cries echoed through the banquet as she fainted from excessive grief. Even Princess Changming was moved to tears by their profound devotion. The storyteller on stage told the tale with such sorrow, while I nearly choked to death on my tea. When exactly did I ever pledge my heart to Gu Yan? He was clearly the one being nonsensical and making a scene for no reason. Someone sat down next to us. I turned around and found it was Gu Yan himself. Talk about a narrow road for enemies. To run into him as soon as I stepped out. Brother Gu, why are you here as well? Naturally, for the same purpose as Brother Gu. After speaking, he glanced in my direction. I immediately straightened my back. Brother Gu, tell me what's going on between you and my sister. It's pretty much what the storyteller said. Gu Yan picked up his cup of tea and smiled. I rolled my eyes in my mind. What the storyteller said. Even I, the person involved, found it ridiculous. How did he have the nerve to say it was pretty much right? Gu Yan finished his cup of tea on his own, and then stood up to leave. I also returned to the manor. As soon as I entered the gates, the butler came up to say that father had something to discuss with me. I followed the butler to father's study. I heard that Gu Yan asked Princess Changming to arrange a marriage at the spring banquet. I didn't say anything. You and Gu Yan aren't a bad match. If you truly are fond of him, father can help you. Father, I'm not. Gu Yan and I aren't suited for each other at all, simply because father is the minister of war, and Gu Yan is the general of Wei Yuan. Two people who both hold military power becoming in-laws is a major taboo for the emperor. You don't need to worry. If you truly like him, father can hand over part of his military power. It's about time our family's responsibilities were handed over to your brothers. Since I transmigrated, it's the first time I've truly felt what it's like to have a family. I knew before that father doted on me, but I never imagined he'd be willing to give up his military power just for the sake of my happiness. Thinking back to my original home, my parents favored my brother over me. They only wanted to marry me off as soon as possible, using the bride price to buy a house for my younger brother. For the first time, I stepped forward and hugged this new father. Father, I don't even like Gu Yan. I just want to stay in the manor and be with you forever. Ha 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 ha. What are you talking about? How can a young lady never get married? But father will definitely let you choose a fine husband. I don't want to get married at all. If I don't marry, I basically have the script of a powerful female lead novel. My whole family dotes on me. The family is rich, and this body is beautiful. I must find a way to get the plot back on track. Only when the leads are together can I truly feel at ease. I immediately formulated a series of plans. I sent invitations to both Gu Yan and the female lead, inviting them to go flower watching. On the day of the outing, I arrived early to prepare. I planned not to show up myself. I'd just make an excuse later, saying that I couldn't make it. To make sure the leads would meet, I had my maid bring a ladder so I could climb up to watch. Before long, I saw a carriage approaching in the distance. From the looks of it, it must be Gu Yan's. The carriage stopped right at the entrance. After the driver announced their arrival, there was no more movement. The person inside didn't get out either. I waited for a long time, but no other carriages arrived. Meanwhile, I was up in the tree, nearly getting heatstroke under the scorching sun. There are no weather forecasts in ancient times, and I never expected it would be so hot today. The person in the carriage below is likely Gu Yan, so I couldn't just climb down. Just as I felt I couldn't hold on any longer, another carriage finally appeared in the distance. I recognized it at a glance. It was the carriage of the female lead. Has she not arrived yet? Is it the carriage from the Su Manor? He soon noticed the carriage parked nearby. He went over to inquire, and naturally received a negative answer from the driver. I was wondering, if both of them stay in their carriages, how on earth are they going to meet? Just as I was getting anxious, I caught something out of the corner of my eye. A little caterpillar was crawling right in front of me. I heard my own eardrum-shattering scream, and the whistling of the wind as I fell. Someone caught me, saving me from falling to my death. As soon as I hit the ground, I hurriedly opened my eyes. Damn this cliché plot. The person holding me was indeed Gu Yan. He didn't seem surprised at all by my sudden appearance. He even had an amused expression, as if he were watching a play. Shouldn't Miss Su give me an explanation? What is there to explain? I was just looking around. I saw the sun was out today, so I came out to get some sun. Miss Su, my lady twisted her ankle before she could leave, so she won't be able to make it today. A drop of cold sweat rolled down my forehead. Did you really have to say that right in front of Gu Yan? Since Miss Li can't make it today, then I suppose Miss Su and I will have to enjoy the flowers together. I had no choice but to brace myself and walk through the entire garden with Gu Yan. We looked at flowers from high noon until the sun set. I felt like my feet were going to fall off. Ancient people had no vehicles, yet they built such massive gardens. I had a wonderful time viewing the flowers with you today, Miss Su. I look forward to your next invitation. I turned and stormed back into the manor in a huff. Who wants to invite you again? Once I was back, I decided to set my second plan into motion. Please, second brother, invite Gu Yan to the city's largest tavern in 3 days. My brother looked at me with a knowing smile. He had that I get it look on his face. So, my little sister can actually be shy. Don't worry, your brother will help you out. 3 days later, the female lead didn't have any accidents this time. She arrived at the tavern as promised. I stood on the second floor and saw my brother walking in with Gu Yan. Everything was going according to plan. Now I just had to wait for the female lead's stunning entrance. The poetry assembly began. The first few poems were mediocre and not at all impressive. I urged the female lead to go up and recite a poem. She finally agreed after much persuasion. She went up and recited a beautiful poem effortlessly, earning a thunderous round of applause from the crowd. I clapped so hard my hands went numb. The effect was perfect. The male lead should be falling for her now, right? But then, a voice rang out from below. Someone actually picked up where her poem left off and continued the recitation. The female lead stood on stage, gazing deeply at the person below. Wait, this doesn't seem right. I leaned out the window to see who it was. It was actually Su Qingqian. Damn it, why is he here too? I completely forgot. This is exactly how the two of them were supposed to meet. I looked over at Gu Yan. That silly guy was still chatting and laughing with my brother. He probably has no idea his future wife is being snatched away. Talk about the observer being more anxious than the participant. Then, the female lead brought Su Qingqian upstairs. Jinghua, I told you I'd introduce you too. So, you're the one who invited him? Yes, is there a problem? No, no problem. It's great. Ha 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 ha. I have to admit, the female lead and Su Qingqian really do get along well. Listening to them talk about poetry and literature, I didn't understand a single word of their flowery speech. Sitting beside them, I just wanted to take a nap. Suddenly, there was a knock on the private room door. It was my brother walking in. He pulled me to the side. He whispered, "You asked me to invite Gu Yan out, but you're nowhere to be seen. What on earth are you up to? Brother, is Gu Yan illiterate? Why didn't he recite a poem just now?" I finally asked the question. That had been on my mind. I carefully set the stage, but the female lead didn't follow through, and neither did the male lead. You don't usually care for these things. Why are you suddenly interested in poetry? I was speechless for a moment. Of course I don't like it, but the female lead does. Ever heard of catering to someone's interests? Looking at the female lead still chatting happily with Su Qingqian, I headed downstairs dejectedly. Gu Yan was standing by the stairs. I walked right past him, but he grabbed my hand. You invited me out. So why are you leaving the moment you see me? I didn't invite you out. My brother was the one who invited you. Your brother and I are barely acquaintances. Why would he invite me out of the blue? I tried to pull my hand away, but it wouldn't budge. Think whatever you want. I'm already frustrated enough, and I really don't want to deal with you right now. Gu Yan let go of my hand. I was finally free. I quickly left the tavern, not noticing him behind me, watching me walk away for a very long time. 3 days later, I received a letter. Xiaoxi said the letter came from the general's manor. I immediately thought of Gu Yan. I casually tossed the letter aside. That evening, my brother came to my courtyard again. I can't believe Gu Yan volunteered to go to the northwest. Why do you think he's pushing himself so hard? Is he tired of this peaceful life in the capital? What? Gu Yan went to the northwest to quell the rebellion? I grabbed my brother's sleeve. Then, realizing I overreacted, I sat back down and nonchalantly poured myself a cup of tea. I remember from the original story that Gu Yan's expedition was a narrow escape. It seemed he fell into an enemy trap. Although he fought to the death and wiped out the enemy, he was left on the brink of death and almost didn't survive. Thinking about my time with Gu Yan, he wasn't actually that annoying. He even saved me once before. I tried to comfort myself. The romance between the leads is already off track, so maybe the outcome of this expedition will be different too. Only after my brother left did I go inside to find the letter that had arrived that morning. The handwriting inside was strong and powerful. Jinghua, this is the first time I've called you by your name. I fell in love with you at first sight during the spring banquet. You deliberately faked an illness to avoid the banquet, even painting red dots on your face. You probably didn't notice, but those red dots were smudged in several places. I thought you were very interesting at the time. This expedition is dangerous. I might not make it back. If I return, I will ask the emperor for a marriage decree. If you are unwilling, just send a letter to the manor before I return. I will understand your heart. Tears fell on the paper, smudging the ink. You really shouldn't have fallen for me. You're supposed to be with the female lead, I murmured to myself, not knowing if I was stating a fact or trying to convince myself. 2 months later, dire news came from the northwest. It was said that young General Gu had fallen into an enemy trap. The entire unit he led was wiped out. The blizzard in the northwest was so fierce that they couldn't even find his body. I listened as my brother told me the news. In the courtyard, my expression remained relatively calm. I already knew this would happen, didn't I? I didn't expect that meeting at the tea house would be our final meeting. Along with this news came a joyful event. Princess Changming helped Su Qingqian, and the female lead asked the emperor for a marriage decree. The wedding was set for a month later. When the female lead came to tell me the good news, she couldn't help but sigh when Gu Yan was mentioned. During the spring banquet, Gu Yan and Qingqian both requested the decree from the princess. If you two had been in love as well, we might have even been able to get married together. I turned to look at her. Why don't you like Gu Yan? The female lead looked at me with some surprise. Why would I like Gu Yan? He's popular with women in the capital. But, if I were to spend my life with someone who only knows how to fight, wouldn't the rest of my life be incredibly boring? I wanted to tell her. The book clearly said you two were happy together, but I had no way to argue, because she really did seem to have more in common with Su Qingqian. I accepted her wedding invitation. After she left, I began to pack my bags. I wanted to go find Gu Yan. He's the male lead. Shouldn't he have protagonist armor? How could he possibly die? Once I finished packing, I went to find my brother. I asked him to find some people to accompany me. My brother didn't say a word. He just lent me the 2 highly skilled guards, who were always by his side. On the way to the northwest, I kept thinking, even if Gu Yan is truly dead, I must find his remains. He grew up in the capital. At the very least, I have to bring him back home. The blizzard was fierce throughout the journey, but I didn't dare stop to rest. I eventually fell ill by the time I reached the northwest. They found a clinic to treat me first. A young boy from the clinic brought me medicine every day. I noticed that life in the Northwest was quite peaceful. It didn't look like they had just lost a war. Did the enemy not pillage the city after entering? What enemy troops? Wasn't the Gu family's army defeated? They were defeated, it seems, but the enemy never entered the city. Did the Imperial reinforcements arrive in time? So the city didn't fall? I tried to recall this war from the book, but it was only mentioned briefly. No details were given. I rested at the clinic for a few more days, secretly praying that Gu Yan hadn't died after all. I was anxious to go out and find Gu Yan's remains. Just as I stepped out of the clinic, I saw a group of soldiers passing by. The person on the leading horse looked familiar. I must be missing Gu Yan too much, so I'm having hallucinations. But I still ran forward a few steps, wanting to get a better look at the person on the horse. I heard the people standing on the street, greeting the man on the horse. They called him General Gu. I ran even faster. Gu Yan, I shouted loudly. The horse at the front stopped, and the person on it turned around. My heart almost stopped beating in that instant. The man on the horse had the exact same face as Gu Yan. After seeing me, he flipped off his horse, and rushed over to me in a few strides. Jinghua, why are you here? He gripped my shoulders so hard it hurt. He immediately let go. I came to take your remains home. You came looking for me? Aren't you dead? Are you a ghost or something? I didn't answer, but simply punched him in the chest. Gu Yan let out a muffled groan. General Gu is still injured. Only then did I notice beads of sweat forming on Gu Yan's forehead. Are you okay? The news I sent back to the capital was actually a ploy to deceive the enemy. I knew it was a trap, so I decided to play along and make them think I had fallen for it. Before wiping them all out, Gu Yan sounded very proud as he spoke about his strategy. How did you know it was a trap? The Gu Yan in the book actually fell for it and almost died. Gu Yan blinked and smiled like a clever little fox. That's a secret I can't reveal. Since I see you're not dead, I'll be going now. Gu Yan grabbed my hand. Jinghua, you came all the way to the northwest for me. Does this mean I can go back and request the marriage decree now? Talk about it when you make it back alive. Once my injuries have healed a bit more, I'll return home with you. By the time Gu Yan and I returned to the capital, the delayed battle reports had already arrived. Gu Yan was no longer just a general, inheriting his father's prestige in the capital. He was now a general truly seasoned by the fires of war. As soon as he returned, he went to the palace to request a marriage decree from the emperor. He was willing to hand over his military power, offering to stay in the capital to train troops for the imperial court. His loyalty was plain for everyone to see. He had thought of the same thing as my father. I just didn't expect that right after his victory, he would be so willing to give up his military power. The emperor, mindful of his recent achievements, granted us a marriage decree. He only symbolically took back a small portion of the military power, allowing him to keep his title as the general of Wei Yuan. Half a month later, on the day of the female lead's wedding, Gu Yan and I attended the ceremony together. As they were bowing to heaven and earth, I heard the female lead's inner thoughts. In this life, I finally don't have to live with a man who only knows how to fight.